Welcome to the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft podcast. I'm your host, Chris Spear. So here we're going to talk about gear, grit, and the kind of stories you only get around a fire. It's all about learning, adapting, and keeping your faith strong. So whether you're a seasoned outdoorsman or just looking to unplug and reconnect, you're in the right place. So pull up a chair by the fire and let's get into it. All right, welcome back to the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft podcast. And, today we're talking all about fire. But first, I wanted to say happy Memorial Day. Today is Memorial Day, and it's a day that is set aside to remember the men and women who laid down their lives in service to our country. And we pause to honor their sacrifice, and we hold close the memories of those that we lost along the way. For me, May always brings around some weight. My best friend Scooter, he passed away in May of 2020. He wasn't military, but he was a warrior in his own way. He was steadfast. He was loyal. He was always ready to help and to help carry the load. And, Camp Wut-Da-Heck was named in his honor, and we are in Camp Wut-Da-Heck today. So today's episode isn't about loss. It's about fire. We're digging into what makes good tinder, what catches flame when it matters, and how that ties back to the condition of our own hearts. So pull up a chair. Let's talk about arrowwood, mimosa, and the spark that starts it all. So I released a video yesterday on YouTube, and it was a full-length video, and it's all about fire tinder, and it's specifically using green wood as a fire tinder. And I used arrowwood and compared it with mimosa. And I wouldn't say really compared it, but I showed that you can use this as a fire tinder. And so arrowwood, I found some, I scraped it green, I dried it in the sun for a little bit, and I lit it with a ferro rod, and it was a solid fire tinder. And, it was something that you use when it's soaking wet. When you take the bark off the arrowwood, it is sloppy wet in there. I mean, it is soaking wet, like drenching wet. Like, I don't even know. You could probably pierce the bark and drink the juice that pours out. It's that wet. Now, mimosa is invasive all in South Mississippi. And I haven't proven it. I have not proven that you could use that until I filmed this video. And I was doing my research. I was doing my study. And I got the idea because it's everywhere. And I got on my property out here, I've got trees and trees and trees and mimosa. And you can't get rid of it. The more you cut it down, the more it grows back. Same thing with tung nut. And we're going to talk about that as well. If you don't know what a tung oil tree or a tung nut tree is, yeah, get ready. We're going to discuss that here in a little while. So then the week before, I did a short video on the pull start fire. And I believe I had that as the sponsor of last week's video, but it's still something worth talking about. It's still viable in a world where you want a fire now. And a lot of us, whenever we get out there, we want what we want. We want it now. And, everybody, we all are subject to instant gratification. It doesn't matter how far along you walk with the Lord is or not. At some point, we all fall and need the instant gratification. And so that's where the pull start fire comes from, because it burns for 30 minutes. You pull that string and it's going to work. So, but anyway, so the arrowwood, man, I first saw this online and it blew my mind. My mind was blown whenever I first saw it. And so I had to do some research on it and find out what
what it is, why. So arrowwood is pretty much indigenous to the states. It's indigenous to the southeast or the eastern seaboard, the eastern states. And it grows near creek beds. It grows near roadways and, field edges and stuff like that. Creeks, lakes, anything is where there's an edge. It always grows on the outside edge of the tree line. Now, it doesn't get real huge, but it does make relatively straight shoots. All its limbs are straight, pretty much straight. And what isn't straight, you can actually hold over the fire and bend them straight. And one of the reason why they call it arrowwood is because the indigenous people here, that's what they used it for. They used it for arrows for their bows. Now, these arrowwood plants are all over here in South Mississippi. And whenever I first saw it, I was like, yeah, what's the odds of that? I'm not going to see it down here. And then I went to looking for it, and sure enough, it is everywhere. It is all over the place down here. But once we got out into the woods and started finding it and got to understanding what we were looking for, the kind of leaves, and then in the springtime, like right now, it's late spring now, it's starting in summer. In June, it'll be summertime, but it's late spring, but these things still have flowers. And the beautiful thing about arrowwood is that the flowers are real small and they clump together. They're grouped together. So the flowers on this is a dead giveaway with the leaves. It's like an oval shape with rough edges. It kind of looks like a saw all the way around on one side and a saw all the way around on the other side. And, that is a dead giveaway to this tree. Now, another aspect of this tree is the fact that if you see one, there's going to be more. There's going to be more than one. You're never going to find just one arrowwood bush. There's going to be several bushes within a short distance of each other. And everywhere that I have found this arrowwood, this has been the truth, that there is always more than one bush next to each other. And so I don't know if that's a common thing. I just that's my observations. So arrowwood, once you cut it, you cut you a nice little piece off. You don't have to cut the real big thick bark, or not bark, but the big thick trunk or the main branch of the tree. You could just cut a couple of the little shoot offs or the limbs off of it, and that will suffice. That will give you plenty enough tinder to start a fire and plenty enough tinder to actually go out and start another fire. So you can have that as backup. Now you cut your limb, you debark it, and then you take all the bark off of it. And the water in between that bark and the actual wood itself is very substantial. You get a lot. It's wet. And you're probably thinking to yourself, how are you going to start a fire with wet tinder? I can't explain it because it is slopping wet. And if you got dirt on your hands and you touch this, it is going to make mud in your hands. That's how much water is inside this arrowwood between the wood and the bark. Now, once you debark it, then you take the backside of your knife. In my case, I didn't use my knife. I used the sharp edge on my Lagon folding saw. And that saw is amazingly sharp on the spine. I mean, it is ridiculously. It's sharper than all the spine of all my knives. And I don't know why. But anyway, this saw has a great sharp spine that you are able to go ahead and just rub it back and forth, and you want to press down with it angled into the wood, and then you want to just scrape it and you scrape it, and each scraping, it gives off almost like a fluff. The FLUFF, fluff, not just shavings, but it makes the shavings fluffy. And I'm having a hard time describing it, fellas and gentlemen and ladies. I am having a very hard time describing it. So what you are going to look for is that the fibrous that's it. It's going to be extremely fibrous. And when you look at it, it's going to be like, oh, wow, that is going to catch fire. So, yeah, and once you get it shaven down and you get you a nice little pile of it, and you'll notice your stick as you're starting to do your stick will start, it'll be like, cause you're not going to go all the way to the bottom with it. I never did. And I mean, some people probably could, but you'll start seeing it where it just starts shaving all the wood away, and it just slowly makes it thinner in the middle and wider in the edges. And that is an extremely beautiful fire tinder. Now, with the arrowwood, I'm trying to describe it as best I can without visualizing it with a video or anything or a photograph. But the arrowwood has a brownish orangish tinge to it. Its shavings are going to be like a rusty color, like a tan, like a dead wood inside of a dead oak wood specifically, how it's going to turn like a tannish rust color. And so whenever I got everything done with that, then you set that out on the rock or on some dirt or on the ground, anywhere that the sun is able to hit it, and let the sun dry what kind of moisture that's in it out. And it doesn't take long, 15 minutes, something like that, maybe 20 tops. I had a couple of rocks out here that I just laid the stuff on, and the rocks had been sitting in the sun all day, so they were already warm. And then by putting the tinder on top of the rocks, it just, acted like a heat reflector, and just drove all that moisture out. So once I did that, I'm done with the tinder from the arrowwood, and then I go to the mimosa. So mimosa is an invasive species in Mississippi. It's pretty much invasive everywhere. And it is much like the arrowwood as far as the bark is concerned. The bark will come off. You make a slit, and then you just peel it off just like you would on the arrowwood. Mimosa usually has a very long curved shaft or curved main trunk. Sometimes it goes straight up, depending on the trees or whoever's doing whatever, whoever. If you're cultivating it to grow in your yard, which I don't recommend because it'll start taking over everywhere else and start taking over everybody else's yard. But if you're using it as a tree or ornamentation tree in your yard, it'll grow straight up. But if it is growing on the edge of a road or edge of a field or edge of, it's like arrowwood. It's always going to grow the edge of something, the edge of the tree line, the edge of the road, the edge of fields, the edge of creek banks, and, stuff like that. It's always going to grow on that edge, and it'll start curving out. And these things, they grow fast. And from all the research that I've been doing about mimosa, and I'm sitting here looking at a couple of branches of it right now from Camp Wut-Da-Heck, but of all the research that I've done on the mimosa tree, the flowers are edible. It has been used as a medicinal, and I think that's how it ended up here. It's also called the silk tree, and it's from China. And China, all the way from Iran over to China is where it's typically its typical range. And then it was brought over here to the States, and then it was just multiplied in several states. Like Florida, I believe it is an extremely invasive species. They pretty much outlawed it, kind of like willow did in Australia. Australia, the willow tree over there started taking over, and they just had to come in with bulldozers and backhoes and pull it all up, and you can't miss a root, because if you do, it'll grow back. Well, mimosa is the same way. It will sprout from a seed. It'll also sprout from the actual root, and that works the same kind of way as a plum tree. Some certain plums do the same thing. So with the mimosa, you're going to harvest it. You select the one that you want to harvest, and you go right for it. Now, here's the thing that I found with the mimosa. Once you cut the limb, and once you debark it, you need to get straight to work. It works amazingly, and it fluffs up amazingly, just like the arrowwood does. And this wood is a very bright white. It's a real white looking wood. It is, if you were to do like bow drills or hand drills or, fire plows and stuff like that, mimosa is your candidate. It is the one that you want to do those kind of friction fires with. And Ranger over here, he got him another turtle, and he's dragging the turtle to Camp Wut-Da-Heck. Silly dog. But anyway, these mimosas are perfect for any kind of friction fire set. And they're real good, and I'll have to do a demonstration video on the mimosa tree. Now, you go ahead and debark it, and you can put one slice down your limb all the way down, and it will just peel straight out like a heck, I don't even know how to describe that, but it'll just pop right on out like you took a jacket off. That's exactly how it would take off. It is wet, but not to the extent of the arrowwood. The arrowwood is more of a yellowish color. The mimosa is a bright white. Now, what I was saying a while ago was that you have to take the mimosa and you have to start working with it, because the more it dries out, the less fluffy the material is going to be. Explain that one to me. I don't know. But of the several branches that I did and experimented with, this is what I found. I had some sticks that I cut the day before, and then I had some sticks that I cut the day of, and I tried them out because I was trying to see, and I debarked both of them. I debarked the day before, I debarked it right as I cut it. I just didn't have time to mess with it. I had somewhere I had to be. And then, so the next day, I went to start scraping it and found that it did not generate the results. So I was like, well, this one's kind of dried out. Let me do another one. And I'm glad I did, because I found out, because had I not done that, I'd never know what I know now. And that you have to work on it pretty quick before it dries out, because that wood will dry out very fast. And another thing about that wood is, when I was researching as well, that it burns extremely hot. It burns fast, but it burns as hot as oak, from my reading online. Now, that it burns a very hot fire and makes it real hot and real fast. So whenever it's dry, it is, if you need something to get real hot real fast, mimosa is the way to go. But it has to be dry, because I don't know if it's going to burn real wet like a log, but it has a lot of moisture content inside of it, just like the arrowwood does. Now, you take these things and you scrape it with the backside of your spine, just like you did the arrowwood, and you just collect it. Now, every time you scrape it, you're going to get some extremely fluffy material. This stuff is fluffy. It's almost like you can make a pillow out of this. And thinking about it, you could probably take it, once you did this, you could probably weave it together and make cordage out of it. And I'm thinking I'm going to give that a shot and see how that works, because once you rake that end of your blade down the spine of that board or that wood, and you get a good 6 to 12 inch long piece of fluff that comes off of there, it's still pretty hard. It's still got some tensile strength to it, and it will be allowed to be rolled. You can roll it up and then you could twist it. So, but the only problem with that is that I can foresee is that the moment it dries out, it might become brittle, but who knows? It might be one of those things like willow bark where you have to peel the willow bark and then throw it in a fire and boil it with some hardwood ash, or generally with the lye in there to soften it up. And then you have to take it out once it generates a different color, like a rust colored, and then you hang that thing up and let it dry, and that's when you start twisting it into a fiber. So that's neither here nor there. We'll do primitive rope making on another day. So once you get your tinders out and you got enough that you need to start a fire, let's pull this microphone back closer to this chair. But once you get enough to actually start your fire, you go ahead and set it on a rock, set it on the dirt, set it out in the sun, somewhere where the sun can hit it and dry it out. And, you're going to be sun drying this wood, not sun dried tomatoes, but sun drying this wood. And you go ahead and put that out there, let it dry down a little while, 15, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, something to that effect. And like I did in the video, I did it for 10 minutes. I did it for 10 minutes, and then a ferro rod, it accepted a spark from a ferro rod real quick. So that's the next step. Then you would go ahead and put it where you need it. While you was waiting for it to dry out, you already found all your sticks, all your kindling, all that stuff that you're going to use to ignite your fire or to grow your fire and to kindle it into a fire. And you're going to go ahead and get all that ready, and then you throw a spark into your tinder bundle. Now, here's the thing about that. It will like first or second strike on your ferro rod, it will ignite into flames. And I found that mimosa does burn hotter than the arrowwood, but both of them catch flames with the first or second strike. Now, once you put the mimosa in there, it's going to burn a little bit faster than the arrowwood does. It's almost like it is it has no oils in it. It's not a volatile, but it just seems like it's got more fire catching properties to it than an arrowwood does. But arrowwood is still a viable option. It's still used all over the place. It's mentioned all over the internet, and it's in the forums and all of the such of that nature. So once you get these things in there, you get your fire started, bam, it's over with. You just throw you a spark in there. Now, bonus tip. It works with charcoal as well for both of them. Arrowwood and mimosa. It works with charcoal. And there is another I told you would come back to in a little while, and that is the old tung nut or the tung oil tree. Now, back in, many moons ago, Mississippi was one of the top exporters of tung nut oil, and tung nut oil was what was used to paint ships during World War II and after that. It was the oil for the oil-based paints, and tung nuts were a huge commodity down here in South Mississippi until Hurricane Camille in 1969. Once Hurricane Camille hit, then it wiped out the tung nut orchards, and, well, now they're just an invasive species. And these things, dude, let me tell you, you get you a tung nut tree, and in 2 years, like if you get a sprout from a tung nut, it'll be 8 to 10 inches that first year. That's third year, it's going to be about 40 feet tall, about 8 inches in diameter. And it's just going to be a big old dude. I mean, these things grow quick. I mean, just like they grow fast. The old expression, grows like a weed. That's it. They grow like a weed. So the tung nut But the thing about tuna is typically it grows straight. It grows straight. And the branches are only going to be at the top of the tree. It does not grow like branches of like these other trees. So you get you a very straight, long stick. And so if you get one that, let's say 2 inches around, the whole girth is 2 inches, and you cut that dude and you debark it. It debarks the same way arrowwood does. It debarks the same way mimosa wood does. And bonus tip, it is just as good at starting primitive fires as the mimosa is. Go figure. Any kind of tree that has the little pith in the middle of it, like a sponge pith or whatever you call it, is very good at starting friction fires. And this stuff right here, I've used it a lot. I've also used it to demonstrate how to make a bed because it's light. The wood's light. It's not very heavy, because it grows faster. But this stuff is amazing, and it works awesome as a fire tinder. You just go scrape that dude down, and you're good to go. You are golden. So Paul told Timothy, fan into flames the gift of God. That is 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 6. Starting a fire in the woods is about more than just skill. It's about being prepared. Good tinder doesn't argue with the spark. It's soft. It's ready. It responds immediately. Same thing with our walk with Christ. You don't start with big logs, spiritually or physically. You start with humility, readiness. You got to ask yourself, if God struck a match in your life today, would you catch fire? Or would you just smoke and sputter until he gave up trying? Just like the arrowwood and the mimosa, if you prep early and set yourself up right, the flame will come fast. But you got to be willing to be scraped, exposed, and laid out in the sun sometimes. And that's how real fires start. And don't forget, our God is a consuming fire. Hebrews 12:29. You prep the tinder, but the fire belongs to him. And when he moves, he doesn't warm you. He consumes everything that isn't real. So you better be ready. So this week, don't just think about fire. Build one. Get outside. Get off your behind. Get outside in the woods. Go outside. If you ain't got woods, go find a park. Go find something. But experiment. Test your tinder. Get your hands dirty. Get your boots dirty. Prep something that's real, not just in the woods, but also in your heart, in your walk with God. Let the quiet remind you that the small sparks still matter. And as we honor those who laid it all down, military or not, let's be people who are ready when the flame comes. Because when it does, it won't be a campfire. It's going to be a consuming fire. All right, guys, thank you so much for stopping by today and listening to me on this beautiful Memorial Day 2025. I hope y'all have a great day. And just remember this, in all your ways, acknowledge him. And I will see you in the next video or the next podcast. God bless you.
Thanks for sitting around the fire with me today. If this episode gave you something to think about, if it helped you feel a little bit more prepared, or it even stirred your faith a tiny bit, go ahead and share it with someone else who might need it as well. We don't go camping to run away from life. We come out here to slow down and to recharge. So grab another log, throw it on the fire, and remember this. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. I'll see you next time. God bless you.